Welcome to Reinventing Professionals, a podcast hosted by industry analyst Ari Kaplan, which shares ideas, guidance, and perspectives from market leaders shaping the next generation of legal and professional services.
This is Ari Kaplan, and I'm speaking today with Nick West, a partner and the Chief Strategy Officer at Mishcon Reya. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Ari. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's a privilege to speak with you. So tell us about your background and your role at Mishcon.
I've been in law for 25 years. I trained originally as a lawyer at Linklaters and have done a number of different roles in different legal services related businesses at LexisNexis, Axiom, and now at Mishcon. My role now sits at the intersection of macro strategy, technology, innovation, the future of law, really. And it's a thrilling ride.
How would you describe Mishcon's approach to innovation?
We've always wanted to be at the front edge of innovation in law. We are a business that's more of a challenger than a follower. It starts from technology is changing the world, so it's going to change legal. The best way to understand it is to get your hands on it, to play with it, to experiment with it. We built MDR Lab, which was the first industry legal tech incubator that has spawned a number of well-known legal tech companies, Laurel, DraftWise, Orbital, Third Thought. We help those guys get started, understand product market fit, understanding what problem they were trying to solve. That's always been our approach. We had a data science team from 2017. We've always wanted to get in early, and sometimes that means you make a few false moves, but you learn from doing so.
You announced a firm-wide rollout of Legora in July of last year. How has it changed how your professionals practice?
It's changing it really very quickly. We have associate daily active use up in the late 60s, 70%. That's a pretty astonishing number for legal technology. And so people are clearly getting value from it. And we're now clear that doing a task this way, using a Legora workflow or Legora prompt or chaining Legora tasks together is better than doing it a non-AI enabled way. It's changing it because people are wanting to use it, and we are making people use it because we can get high quality outcomes faster. We can do more. So therefore, it's definitely changing the way law is practiced.
What metrics do you capture related to the use of Legora and your other legal technology applications?
We look at usage, we look at adoption very closely. We always have done across different tools, because ultimately that is one component to the ROI question. Part of it is adoption, but we also try to think about the impact of usage on lawyer utilization, on throughput, speed of getting work done. We look at the usage and adoption across different levels of the firm, lawyer types, departments. We are beginning to be quite methodical in how we track ROI, but it's early. Adoption isn't ROI, but ROI is hard, even in some cases, to describe what do we mean by ROI, let alone track it. That's what we're starting to do.
I was lucky to interview leaders in 14 countries to start the conversation about the ROI of Legora and technology, and to try to develop some kind of metrics. Is there any way that you measure ROI of Legora or other tools at this point?
ROI, we have to define, we have to be able to put a number on value created, and some of those numbers are easier than others. On a fixed fee matter, value to a client is probably about increasing speed. Maybe we can increase the quality, but let's hope that we were giving great quality anyway. Value might be that we can do something faster, or we can do more for the fixed fee. Value for us is happy clients, but also probably higher margin. If we can price it at 100 and it used to cost us 50 of input cost to deliver 100, and we might make 50, making the math simple. If we can do it for 30 and make 70, that's clearly beneficial for us. The obvious question is, should we be sharing that upside with the client? How does price go? I don't know the answer to that question at the moment. So I think about all of those components. Does it increase the speed of delivery? Does it allow us to do more? Do we make more margin on matters? That's definitely one basket of ROI tracking that we do on fixed fee matters. When we think about time and materials, value to the client is trying to fix and make more certain the cost of something. Ultimately, no one wants an open-ended check, but it's very difficult to say this piece of litigation will cost X. There are so many different paths that the litigation can take. So can we make certain elements more certain because we have AI tools, and therefore we can be more certain about how much time it will take or how we reduce the time? Are there things we can now do that we wouldn't have been able to do so we can increase quality? So can we make our clients happier from the work we do? The value to us, other than happier clients and more work, is more complicated than fixed fee, obviously, because if we're compressing time taken, in theory, on the one hand, we're not able to charge as much as we did. So therefore, you really think about focusing that work around the tasks that we do that we find very difficult to bill for, or clients won't pay for, or won't pay fully for. How do I really focus these tools around that stuff so that I can improve margin on that work? Some of those things are easier to track and some of those things are harder to track. Margin on a fixed fee matter is very easy to track. Quality of a piece of litigation and the service we deliver to a client is much harder to track, other than just asking clients how they feel about work. These are hard to do, but so I don't have answers to all the questions, but I'm determined that over the next year or two, we build much better ways of measuring that stuff and linking together time recording data, client satisfaction data, and tool usage data, and trying to be able to sit at board and say, of course, we track revenue and we track profit and we track hours, but I'm tracking the ROI on some of these investments and I report on them. That's the aspiration.
One of the things that many of the leaders I spoke with revealed was this idea of data having almost a hierarchy of where it's easiest to capture. So usage data is generally the easiest. There's a metric and it's either provided by the technology company or you can track it, or it's a combination. And then what's the next easiest kind of data that you can use? And over time, as you say, all of it will become easier, but listening to firms talk about realization, recouping some of the work we weren't able to take, taking in work that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to handle because we didn't have the time or the manpower. Are you seeing a move toward multidisciplinary data being captured? So you're the chief strategy officer, so you have a certain amount of data related to the technology and to the mission of the firm. Others in finance or in business development capture different metrics. Are you seeing any kind of interdisciplinary sharing or combination of data to develop a further understanding of ROI?
We have always thought quite carefully about how some of our data scientists use multiple different data sources, but there are gaps in the data available. If you're someone who uses very sophisticated AI timekeeping tools, you get better quality data about who is doing what with what tools. Some provide better telemetry about what people are doing on their platform, and others provide less information about it. You can choose to buy some of those tools, and if you do, you have better data and you can make more insight. If you choose not to buy those tools, then you have to do a lot more of the joining of the dots yourself, which is harder. If you have time data without exact timestamps, it's really hard to match across to usage data of a tool. But equally, if the usage data from the tool lacks the fidelity of exactly which workflow did the lawyer use at this point, then you're also struggling. If you're serious about this stuff, you have to push providers hard. You have to be very demanding. And then you have to start thinking a little bit about your own. There's a bunch of data in your own enterprise that you have to work quite hard. Some individuals are working 10 hours a day on the same matter, and others are constantly context switching between a lot of things. You have to work trying to figure their work out, trying to figure out how they context switch and how you can then allocate ROI to individual matters. That is clearly a much harder task, and you have to be well organized in how you look at the data. Interesting, those people are quite attractive to follow because we're seeing early evidence that people whose practice looks like that can actually work across more matters when they use AI. So if somebody's working on 2 or 3 things at once, I'm starting to see the ability for those people to work on 4 or 5 things at once because each component of their day takes a little less time. So they've got some extra capacity so they can take on more work. That takes, even before you start worrying about what the tool usage is, just trying to spot those trends, which is a form of ROI for us anyway. We've got more capacity in the organization. We've got to win more work, but we can do more work with the same number of people. So you have to think quite hard about what you're trying to measure, how you join up different data sets. Like any data problem, you've got to be able to triangulate data correctly. ROI measurement is a non-trivial task, but I think working hard at it to make sure you can get real insight and you report it. I'm not one of those people that thinks it's a bit like Microsoft Word. We don't measure the ROI of that. That's nonsense. If we're investing large 6-7 figure sums in these tools, you have to be able to turn around and say, this is what it does for our business. So I think we have to work quite hard to join all those data sets. In some cases, you can make it easier for yourself by the tools that you choose. In other cases, you just have to work hard to make sense of the data you already have.
It seems like the conversations are even pivoting with more of a focus toward ROI. How long do you think it'll be before firms are able to capture the type of metrics necessary to have a more meaningful conversation about what the return is on their investments?
Until I have incredibly granular data about what users are doing with these tools every minute they're in them, my ability to translate that into hard ROI is limited. Equally, I've got to work hard to be able to get all the users doing work in a particular way, because one of the challenges of measuring ROI might be that you're looking at too small a sample size. You're just looking at edge cases and not at the whole. Like any data task, you've really got to think about the sample that you're taking and the statistical sample you're taking. It takes a while. And whilst we're still very much in the adoption curve, some of the data is hard to believe until you reach a certain usage level. It's very complicated and very messy. We're in a better position now than we were 3 months ago. And that's the way I think about a lot of this stuff. When things are hard, maybe I can't get there, but I can get here. So let's just go here. And then when I'm here, the world looks a bit different. So now what do I need to do? And I realize that I'm trying to do too much, narrow down, focus it. That's the way I think about innovation, experimenting, R&D. Here we're saying, I'd love to be able to put a single ROI number on my spend with Legora, but maybe that's very difficult. So what I can do is say X. What I can do is say Y. What I can do is show how on work that we do in real estate, which is on a fixed fee, this is the impact of it. Work we do in our litigation practice or our arbitration practice that tends to be on a time and materials basis, this is the value we're able to create. This is how using Legora portal and engaging clients directly and bringing them directly into Legora's portal tool is generating new work for us, new opportunity for us, new revenue for us. All of those things, I've taken the big ROI idea down and broken it into smaller chunks. It's some of those that we're doing well on reporting, and others I've got a long way to go. Often that's because I haven't got enough usage to really be able to report out.
How should law firms generally think about the return on their investments in technology?
They should be pretty disciplined about it. It's an increasing line item on a budget. It doesn't make it easy to track. It's quite hard to translate all of those dollars back into a single ROI number. It's quite hard to express the total value of an individual lawyer. You can see their hours billed, but what about all the other things? So it's the same with technology. Lots of technology enables the practice of law, but I think we should try hard to do it. I don't think it's acceptable to turn around and say, we don't measure the value of email or Word, so why should we measure the value of Legora? I think it has to be, is it improving quality? Is it improving speed? Is it improving margin? Is it generating new revenue through things you couldn't do or services you can now build? They're all sources of value. Some of those are easier to manage, to measure. Some of those are easier to allocate direct revenue and cost to. But these are not impossible questions to answer. You just have to work quite hard at them. And I think you should, because I have a responsibility to my fellow partners to be able to turn around and say, when you give us more money to spend on more tools, I ought to be able to tell you how that's generating return for us as a business.
This is Ari Kaplan speaking with Nick West, a partner and the Chief Strategy Officer at Mishcon Reya. Nick, thanks so very much.
Pleasure, Ari. Lovely to talk.
Thank you for listening to the Reinventing Professionals podcast. Visit reinventingprofessionals.com or arikaplanadvisors.com to learn more.